This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for August 9th, 6 p.m. Here's a view of the Atlantic Basin using the NOAA Water Vapor Loop. And we have two areas of concern in the Atlantic Basin, Invest 94 near Florida, and we have Invest 93L out in the East Atlantic, Mid-Atlantic. Neither one of these systems are a threat at this moment. We have Colin that weakened near Bermuda. We'll get to that, and we'll talk about all these upper-level lows. But this time of the year, you generally don't see a lot of activity, so it's not unusual for it to be quiet in the first week or two of August. It's the later half of August and into September that you really start getting the big systems rolling off Africa and coming towards the United States. But let's go over each one of these individually. First of all, the National Hurricane Center indicates we have a 10-12 millibar low pressure area here, a broad area of low pressure off the coast of Sarasota, Florida. And this came across the state of Florida today and is in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. It's not really strengthening very much because we have a lot of dry air being pulled into the system, courtesy of this upper level low in the Bahamas. And this is what's really disrupting the development of 94L. And as you can see, the swirl near the northwestern Bahamas is continuing to drift off to the northwest. And the indications from the long-range models indicate that this Invest 94 is going to drift to the west-northwest and then north into the northern Gulf Coast. But right now, none of the models are indicating much in the form of much of intensity with Invest 94L. Now, the other day we had Colin here east of Bermuda. It was squiggling off to the north here, and then it just completely dissipated due to upper-level wind shear. Now, you might wonder, is this going to be included in the Hurricane City database under Bermuda? It will not, because it was weakened to a tropical depression before it got within 60 miles of Bermuda. There were no tropical storm force sustained winds on the island, so it is no brush or hit for Bermuda. So they still have not been affected yet this year. And Cullen will be a non-factor for any cities that did not affect anybody in the Atlantic Basin. Now, we also have Invest 93L out in the far east Atlantic, and that's this little blob right here. And the system is somewhat well organized, but the convection is mainly northeast of the center. The center is down here. I'll show you a close-up visible in just a minute, but basically unfavorable conditions. You have northwest wind shear on the backside of a big, huge upper-level low out here in the East Atlantic. And then we have another upper-level low to the west of it, and this is sandwiched in between them, so there's a slight chance this might develop, but it's going to move out to sea anyway and be a non-factor. So things are pretty good and quiet right now in the Atlantic Basin. Let's go ahead and talk about these individually. First of all, let's talk about 94L. Here's a close-up visible from NASA, and you can see the center of circulation, and whatever there is of it, is off of Sarasota here. Now, they invested this 94L over here on the East Coast, which I think it was a waste of an invest. They could have waited until this got a little better developed in the Gulf of Mexico, but it is very disorganized. Again, that upper-level low over here is causing wind shear all through here, and until this upper-level low gets out of the picture, this is not going to develop very much. Now, yesterday everybody was going crazy over the GFDL model that had it going up to a Category 3 hurricane towards Texas, but, you know, you got to look at consistency in models before you get excited about intensity on these systems, especially when they're Invest. They're very unpredictable. But we'll watch this. It could develop slowly over the next few days. Now, we also have Invest 93L. Here's a close-up visible of this, and you can clearly see the center of circulation. I think this is already a depression. They just haven't classified it for whatever reason. But there's the center right there. Very well-defined center. All the banding is out here to the east. So this is undergoing wind shear, as I said earlier, and this is probably not going to develop very much. But if it does, it will become Danielle more than likely. All right, here's the models on Invest 94L. And again, generally west-northwest towards Louisiana. Even the GFDL has backed off considerably to a tropical depression or weak tropical storm. That's the most the models are indicating out of this. And here is Invest 93L models out to sea, weak system, non-factor. This is going to go out to sea, and we'll just have to look to the southeast for any systems that are heading off the coast of Africa in the coming weeks. Those are the ones we're going to have to watch closely. Back to the water vapor loop, I want to mention one thing. The islands of the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean Sea down here south of Cuba. I want to thank Simon Boxall from the islands down there in the Cayman Islands. He works for the Department of Emergency Management, and he was pointing out a couple of errors in the database in reference to the Cayman Islands. And actually, well, I don't know if it benefited or made it worse on the Cayman Islands, but they now have more tropical storm brushes and hits than what was previously estimated. Now, they've done a hurricane reanalysis project down at the Hurricane Center and the research division, and they've taken some storms off the map, and they've added some other storms going back to the late 1800s and early 1900s. So the numbers have shifted a little bit, but the Cayman Islands now far out perform all the other areas in the Atlantic Basin as far as being affected by named storms. They are the most affected area, remain the most affected area, but the numbers per year have gone down. It's down to being affected by a named storm once every 1.19 years as opposed to 2.0 years, or 1.98 I believe it was, and before the readjustment. So I want to thank him for the pointing that out, and we really narrowed it down for the Cayman Islands to include the sister islands, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman Island, and the major Grand Cayman Island. This is the most affected area in the Atlantic Basin, bar none. So check out the Hurricane City database and learn about the Cayman Islands. Well, that's it for now. We'll be back in a couple of days with another update on these invest, or we'll be back if they become named storms. That's it for now. And remember, visit hurricanecity.com for the latest information on the tropics. Thank you again.